Dana White just entered boxing like he owns the place. And if you think that's a bad idea, you might be right. But if you think it's exactly what boxing needs, you also might be right. So which is it? Savior or destroyer? Here's the truth. Zuffa Boxing will either save boxing from its broken ass politics, or it'll prove that boxing is too messy for even Dana White to fix. I'm Abner, and let's break this situation down. Dana White has been chasing this idea since 2017, right after McGregor boxed Mayweather. He literally wore a Zuffa Boxing shirt to the press conference like a dude soft launching his mixtape. But for 8 years, nothing happened. And why? Dana White himself said that boxing's politics were a nightmare. That means multiple belts, greedy promoters, fights that never happened. He wanted to go in and be the one that cleans up that mess of a swamp. Let's fast forward to 2025. The UFC merges with WWE under TKO Group, and we have Saudi Arabia throwing billions into combat sports. And boom, Dana White finally gets his green light. And Zuffa Boxing officially launches with the biggest fight imaginable for this decade. Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford. So what's the play here? Dana's bringing the UFC model to boxing. So what does that mean? That means one promotion, one belt per division, and the best fight the best. Sounds great on paper, right? But here's the catch. That same UFC model that we love so much is the exact same reason that UFC fighters are complaining every damn week about pay. In boxing today, a top star like Canelo can easily make $40–50 million on a single fight. His last fight with Crawford was well over $100 million, according to Turkey himself.
For the first time, a Mexican sports figure with a guaranteed purse of at least $100 million. How do you feel about that?
No, you get the number wrong. The contract between us and Canelo, more than that.
In the UFC, even champions are pulling 6 figures, maybe low 7 if they're lucky. Why? Because UFC controls the belts and the matchmaking. Fighters don't get leverage, the promotion does. Zuffa Boxing wants that same model. Translation, you might get more big fights, but boxers are going to get smaller checks. That's why guys like Bob Arum are screaming their lungs out that Dana is about to rob fighters blind. Now, here's where things get spicy. Zuffa Boxing isn't just Dana with a mic, it's Dana plus Saudi Arabia with their checkbook. And if you've been paying attention the last few years, Saudi Arabia runs combat sports like Amazon runs shipping. Saudi entertainment boss Turki Al-Sheikh co-founded Zuffa Boxing. That's the same dude who turned Saudi Arabia into boxing's New Vegas. The first Zuffa card, Canelo vs. Crawford at Allegiant Stadium, streamed globally on Netflix. Netflix, not DAZN, not ESPN, basically Netflix pay-per-view. If you think that's a one-off, you're wrong. They already signed a deal with Paramount Plus for 12 fights a year starting in 2026.
There is 4 company, 4 belt.
So many problems.
So many problems, you know. And also, and you need to catch the youngest generation now.
Yeah.
You need to have good poster, good music, similar to what UFC now do.
Yeah.
They do it right because they are company, and they are all the only company. For that, we are coming with new strategy and new idea, new vision, with sporting of the vision of 2030 in our country, to do and deliver to the market the best fight with good price and make the fight that people want to see it.
Yes.
That means they're clearly not just dabbling, they're seeking to build out an entire league, a boxing year-round schedule. Like UFC fight nights, except it's with gloves and not elbows. And here's the part boxing fans can't deny. We've been crying for this type of setup for years. More stacked cards, clearer champions, actual consistency. None of this 5 promoters protecting 5 belts nonsense. Look at their first event, not just Canelo and Crawford, but a stacked undercard. Callum Walsh, prospects fighting real fights, not record-padding mismatches. That's the UFC influence right there. And if every Zuffa card looks like that, us, the fans, win. Casuals finally know who the champion is. You don't need a PhD in sanctioning bodies to follow along. But will fighters actually sign up for this? Or will Zuffa end up with a bunch of prospects and no real stars? Because let's be real, boxing's biggest names, they don't need Zuffa. Fury, Joshua, Tank, Canelo, they already make insane money. So why would they make a UFC style deal unless they offer stupid amounts of money? All right, so let's talk money for a second, because that's where this entire thing could fall apart. In today's day and age, boxing stars eat first. In the UFC, they eat last. And Dana White, he likes it that way. Right now, boxers get 60 to 80% of the event revenue. UFC fighters, about 18%. That's why Dana's pushing Congress to take the Alley Act, the law that forces transparency in boxing. He wants a loophole so Zuffa can run like the UFC does. Critics call it a power grab, supporters call it modernization. Either way, if that law changes, boxers could lose their biggest advantage, financial leverage. So yeah, you'll get Crawford versus Spence quicker, but maybe for half the money. And that's where dudes like Shakur Stevenson are already saying, hell no, I'm not signing with Zuffa. And if enough big names feel like that as well, this is going to quickly turn into the UFC's B team league real fast. And let's not forget, boxing is not MMA. In MMA, if you have a 10-2 record, you can still become a star. But with boxing, if you're 10-2, if you even have just one loss, half the internet is gonna call you washed. That's just the culture. Dana wants to run a contender series for boxing, which means undefeated prospects fighting each other at 8-0, 9-0, way earlier than they usually would. Daniel Cormier himself said that doesn't work in boxing. And he's right. Fans obsess over that zero. So if Zuffa starts feeding young lions to each other, are we building stars or just burning them out? Personally, I'd love to see it, but I don't think the boxing world as a whole is ready to call a 12-2 fighter the next superstar. In boxing, the biggest headache is not training. Hell, it's not even cutting weight. It's the promoters playing games. Because the promises they make vanish, the contracts get twisted, and the fights take forever to get made. So if Zuffa can actually fix this, fighters win. But if it turns into UFC style contracts with exclusive deals, fighter pay capped, basically no freedom, we basically just have another hustle with the slicker logo. So here's the scoreboard. Fans get clarity, fighters risk losing leverage, boxing's history gets sidelined, but boxing might finally get consistent hype again. Mike Tyson says Dana White is the best thing that can happen to boxing. Roy Jones Jr. says it's the worst. The truth? It's both. Either way, boxing feels unpredictable again. And maybe that's the whole point. But speaking of unpredictable, everybody's currently clowning Tank versus Jake Paul and that whole thing. But I think there's more to that story. So if you thought that Zuffa shaking up the boxing world was wild, you might want to see why that fight actually matters more than people want to admit. So click over here to see that video and subscribe while you're at it to keep up to date on more breakdowns. See you later.